Hello, this is Greg Allison with Green Gregs coming to you on the waning moments of 17 December 2020 with a really big idea wrapped in an even bigger question of this. Is secessionism the answer to globalism? And then better yet, will Texit lead the way? Yes, Texit. And will Texit be a political earthquake in our land? Will it actually lead to other states following that example and joining with Texas? What's going to happen? And for this big topic, I thought, well, I better wear a big hat to cover it all. A Texas scale hat, right? So, wow. A lot of you are going to say, no, Greg, that's ridiculous. It wouldn't happen, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm going to talk to you about the legitimacy of government and why, and the trends that actually are going on today, and why this may actually be the very future way. This may be what is coming. So we're going to get all into this because there's a whole lot of underlying tension in this nation that a lot of people have been sweeping under the rug and ignoring, and it may be just about to go boom. So this is not a story of doom, but a story of it's going to be interesting. But it may get very interesting. Let's hope it doesn't lead to a civil bang bang, if you know what I mean, a civil war. I think that can be avoided, but I'm gonna tell you what, we're under so much tension internationally and domestically. You better get ready. You better prepare. I talk about this, and right now we have a really good special. We have $100 off a 4-week supply of food that lasts 25 years. Yes, this is freeze-dried food, so it's lightweight. And you get breakfast, lunch, and dinner. For this deal, you'll be at 1 or 2,000 calories a day. And on a per calorie basis for food like this, you're not going to find any that taste better or is better priced. So it's a great deal. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner with prepwithgreg.com. You'll be a winner. Go to prepwithgreg.com. And when you go there under prepwithgreg.com and click onto my Patriot Supply logo, you can go into their website to all the other special deals they have for prepping. All right, enough said on that topic. So, Texas. Oh my gosh, Greg, what are we talking about? So, some of you may be aware that Texas was actually a republic before. And as a matter of fact, the citizens of Texas, I didn't say residents if you take note of that, have a history of secession. And a couple of times they were successful. Well, 2 out of 3 may not be so bad. Their ancestors were involved in many cases in the American Revolution. You got to remember, most Southerners' roots go way back to colonial days. Up north, you know, they talk about the old country. To me, I didn't know what the world I was watching when I see TV programs where they talk. Yeah, back in the old country, what is that? What's the old country? What are they talking about? Because most people up north are more recent immigrants as opposed to us Southerners who've been around a little bit. Not as long as the Native Americans, except some of us have intermingled with their bloodlines too. At least that's what is alleged. All right, all that said, the thing is that Texans, you know, had that ancestry that were involved in the Revolutionary War, succeeding from Britain. That's how America got started, was through secession. People forget about that. Oh, yeah. And it's written about in here in the Declaration of Independence and the justification for such actions. Okay. Well, the people of Texas seceded from Mexico. You know, it was the people that were the descendants of the Revolutionary War went into the Mexican Republic because it was so good for growing cotton in Texas, and there got to be so many of them, and they got so dissatisfied with the Mexican government, they decided to secede. And they formed a republic of their own, the Republic of Texas. And it took a while for the United States to decide to admit the Republic of Texas into its union. So, but then again, somewhere down the line, they got unhappy again with that union and seceded, and that did not prove to be so successful in that particular occasion. And somebody said, well, that settles it. Oh, everything's settled at the barrel of a gun, huh? That's the legal answer. Well, we'll talk more about that. We're going to talk about legitimization and and why government, why that is defined as the process of legitimizing government at the power of the barrel of a you know what. In fact, that's what Mayo said. Okay. all that said. So what you might know is this. We've got a potential earthquake brewing here. We really do. Texas secessionist movement really has started. It's been there. It's always been a movement in Texas talking about this kind of thing, but it's really started getting a lot stronger here in the past several years. And in fact, there have been a number of books written about it. I'm going to take off my glasses so you can see me. Ah, there I am. Right? Greg, put them back on. We don't look at you. Oh, well. So anyways, like I said, several books have been written back about this, going back to 2016, 2020, calling for this and saying why it's going to happen. I'll probably show you a little bit of that through Amazon. I'm going to flip through some articles, show you a few things here, kind of underscore some of the things that we're talking about here in this particular talk. Actually, I was going to do a topic, and I wanted to do this last night, and I wanted to do this topic last night, but originally I was going to do a video about the divisions in this country. And this thing about Texas just popped up so big. I thought, I got to talk about this first, and then I'll go back and do a subsequent video. I'm going to do that talking about the underlying divisions of this country, and then I'm going to talk about why there may not be a civil war, or how it might not be the kind of war you might think. It might not even be a bang bang war. Maybe not. I kind of think it's not going to be as much of that as you might think, but it doesn't mean it won't be a war by other means. Sun Tzu, So all that said, so like I said, there was this movement that was already afoot, already afield, and then the state of Texas put in a lawsuit against the presidential election of 2020. It took it to the Supreme Court. Several states joined this lawsuit, and then the Supreme Court rejected it. Whether you believe this is right or not, whatever you think was the case of this is fanning further the desire for Texas. I mean, now it is really ramping up. Oh, the Supreme Court rejected us. And we're getting, they're not happy with the process and the way it's going down. I'm not talking about legitimacy of the election in this video. I'm talking about how people feel. I'm talking about the underlying drivers for the motivation of peoples. And that's a wholly different topic. And it was already percolating up. There is a lot of stuff that's been simmering under the surface for some time due to differences, which I will outline more in the subsequent video, okay? I'm going to talk about that. But for this topic, we're talking Texit, globalization, Balkanization, and how that may be. And I'm going to get back to this question: is secession the answer to globalism? And challenges posed perhaps by other globalist forces, such as the modern conquistador wannabes, the People's Republic of China. Okay, so maybe conquistador or conqueror, if it means conquer. So anyway, so what happened? That rejection of the Supreme Court filing by Texas prompted the head of the Texas GOP, Alan West. I remember Colonel West, to say that law-abiding states should form a union. After that, and I'll go more into his statement. I'm going to read it directly shortly. But yeah, he started coming out, and then other people have come out and made some other statements. Now, he walked that back a little bit, but we're going to go into that in some other statements. But as you know, like I said, the liberal media is just going to poo-poo this, and they're already doing that, of course. And they're laughing at it, and they're saying, this is all ridiculous. This is out of hand. But they better pay attention to the tides of the times and to see what's really going on underneath the level, what's motivating society, where things really, 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 really may go. So for that, we're going to talk about this process of what makes a government legitimate in the eyes of the people in it. And that is something that is dropping fast, minute by minute. I can't help but rhyme, can I? Hey, other people may bring you stories like this, but I bring it with a flair, right? All right. So state state legitimization. That's a big word. That's why I got to wear a big hat so I can say these big words today. Holy smoke! Yeah, yeah. It is the legitimization is the act of providing legitimacy. Okay, but this is a political term. In fact, it was defined pretty much by Max Weber, which is spelled Weber, but it's got the more German pronunciation, Weber. Back in 1946, he wrote about this stuff. I might show you a paper of his as I was going through this, and he said the key characterization of modern state power is the monopolization of violence. Mao Zedong had another way of saying it. Mao Zedong said the same thing in other words. And he said that all politics, proceeds out of the barrel of a gun. That's what Mao Zedong said. Okay. So anyway, actually, he said political power grows out of the barrel of a gun. Now, let me get that more correct. That is a direct quotation from Mao Zedong, the founder of the CCP. Okay, we better pay attention to these guys. They are the masters of Sun Tzu, right? Anyway, so yeah. Well, all the communists also know that war is just a continuation of politics by other means. Of course, that also was written by Mao Zedong. That's another quote by him. So, nation-state scholars maintain that the contributing, controlling characteristic of the modern state is indeed the monopolization of violence. So they agree with Weber. That's just how they see it. Anyway, so unlike the days of old, when the states, the countries, the kings, sometimes the kings said that they were a deity, they were God. The pharaohs used to have their astronomers figure out when eclipses would be. Then they would go out and stand before their people and said, you have not been paying your tithes, or you've been doing something wrong, or tithes, your taxes, whatever they want to call them. You have not been proceeding according to my will, therefore I shall take the sun from you. And the eclipses start to happen, and people would go, ah! And then just before then, he said, if you promise you will blah blah blah, I will return the sun. That actually happened, or it was reported to happen. They had their tricks. That's why the state and the various priesthoods used to work hand in hand, because the state needed legitimacy to be legitimized by a higher authority. Yes. So they claim they got their power from a god, or in the older days, gods, the gods, whatever they claimed was their gods, and often it was the kings themselves. So that is how they rule their people, by the right of divine power. And you may remember the monarchs, even of Europe, claimed right of divine power. And you see this even, with the throne of where Queen Elizabeth was sworn in, with the stone of Jacob underneath that throne. So there is a continuity in this lineage of declaiming divine right to rule. Well, that doesn't exist so well in the modern state. That doesn't fly today. So the process of legitimization is the way the state can today pull this off. They have to just show that they are legitimate by other means than divine right. Basically, what they have to do is to convince their citizens that the citizens are better off under the state, that they're providing an intrinsic value to their citizens. It's the only way they can pull this monopolization of power off. And it has to make them believe that they really serve their best interest. And when they fail to do that, then legitimization starts to crack. It's cracking, especially here in the South. I'm going to show you a little bit about this. And it's probably things you already know to some degree. But legitimization does indeed crack and start to fail when the population starts buying into this idea, this fiction that they're sold, that the state is serving them better. You may say, Greg, it's not a fiction state, it's so much better. Well, really? It beats anarchy. One day I'm going to show you some other models. Anyway, the power of the state begins to wane and collapse when the citizens aren't buying this. And already the citizens of the United States are not, in countries throughout the West, are not buying this. And I'm going to talk about this trend we've had toward Balkanization for the last 30 years. We're going to go more into that. So today, the people see their elected officials as crooks. And they go out chanting, lock them up. Yeah, that's happening. In fact, some people have even been calling for the arrest of the governor of Georgia. Oh, yeah, Trump retweeted some of that, didn't he? Anyway, yeah, let me read here what Governor West said. Hang on a second. I want to change my screen so I can find this to read. Well, if I can find it. I may have deleted it. Here we go. What? I said governor. He's not a governor yet. Might be the president of the Republic of Texas or the new association of the states that may form therefrom. We might call them the Freedom States of America, the Free States of America. Anyway, he said this. He wrote this. The Supreme Court, in talks on the Texas lawsuit that was joined by 17 states and 106 U.S. congressmen, have decreed that a state can take unconstitutional actions and violate its own election law. So it's okay. A state can violate its own election law. All these other states saying means nothing, even with all the congressmen, 106 congressmen. And well, okay, I'm editorializing. So go back to what he wrote. Resulting in damaging effects on other states that abide by the law. Okay, you don't obey the law, so that it damages those that abide by the law, is what he said. While the guilty state suffers no consequences. The decision establishes a precedent that says states can violate the U.S. Constitution and not be held accountable. Whoa, whoa. This decision will have far-reaching ramifications for the future of our constitutional republic. Perhaps law-abiding states should bond together and form a union that will abide by the Constitution. Wow. Wow, that was powerful. And we know he walked that back a little bit, but hey, before he walked that back, what you've got to know is this, that there are other people pushing for secession in other areas. But in Texas in particular, there was a state representative, Kyle Biederman, who proposed and entered a bill into the Texas legislature, which will allow Texans to vote on secession. I don't know if this bill has gone anywhere, but he was putting this forward. But this is what Texas Representative Kyle Biederman had to say. He said, the federal government is out of control and does not represent the values of Texans. That is why I am committing to file legislation this session that will allow for a referendum to give Texans a vote for the state of Texas to reassert its status as an independent nation. Reassert its status. Go back to where it was. You got to remember what I said. Texas was an independent nation. Also, we could say that each of the original colonies of the United States were states because they each were under separate charters from the crown. They had separate charters, separate governments, separate land grants, separate governances. Therefore, they started out as independent states. The word state means country. A lot of people forget that in these United States. I didn't say the United States. You used to call this these United States. I used that terminology intentionally. All right, so actually the funny thing is the political platform of the GOP in Texas actually includes the right of Texas to secede from the Union. They claim, you've got to recognize this as a right. That's in their platform. And it's not that they will secede, it's recognizing the right to secede, okay? So So Greg, this is nonsense, silly talk, not going to happen. I hear a bunch of you guys saying this, and most of them you say it because you won't even watch this video. You're going to see the title and you're going to opine such and thus forth. But bear in mind what's been going on in the last 30 years around the world. You realize that over 35 nations have been added to the list of countries in this world just in the last 30 years, from the breakup of the Soviet Union, breakup of countries in Europe, breakup of countries in Africa, and the Pacific Islands. Lots of new nations, the Pacific Islands, and Indonesia. And we're talking about countries such as Bosnia, Lithuania, South Sudan, which, you know, they were being persecuted by the political elite in northern Sudan. So they seceded, you know, but after being, you know, bloodily persecuted for some time, you know, they were of different religion. It was kind of strange. You know, the black people in southern Sudan were Christian. They were, but they had all the oil, and they were totally dominated by their Arabic controllers in the northern part of Sudan. And so they didn't want any part of it. There to get their villages burned and things like that. And even some of our movie stars did something right for a change by calling this a question. It's kind of unusual when they come out that way, right? So there's this idea that's called scientific rationalism. Of course, it has its epitome in the notion of globalism. And for decades, the ardents of this, the modernists, or whatever you want to call them, thought that this would be they saw this as the political means that all populations under this earth could be brought under the global government just by using scientific rationalism. Everybody would just agree and be brought under one system. But the funny thing is that people don't want none of that. The more they push and pull for this, the more people are breaking apart and going with their own individual identities, with their ethnicities, with whatever they identify with, how they see themselves. That's how they want to be. They don't want to be put in a blender, as these people have tried to do, as they want to do, as they're trying to get populations to go everywhere across the country and mix everything up. What they're trying to do is erase notions of identity. They're trying to erase the globalists. They're trying to erase local groups and their ethnicities. They want to put everybody in a big blender and make us all homogenized. Well, I don't know, that might happen eventually with lots of movement and interbreeding and so forth. Maybe eventually, but people are resisting this. And even mixed people don't want this once they settle into a particular culture in a particular place because they identify with it. You know, anybody in marketing knows this. You know that the biggest things that sell are the things that people identify with, and it starts locally. They identify with their high school football team, or their state collegiate team, whatever sport it is, or they identify with, you know, professional teams at the next level. But you know, you take Alabama. You know, we have a team that is called the what? Crimson Tide. Ho ho ho. Santa's color. So yeah, I'm wearing a red state shirt for ho ho ho. Excuse me. I laugh. But what's happening is that all this is breaking up. These countries are breaking up. Groups are breaking up. The Catalonians are pushing for their own country. Scotland looks like they're heading their own way. You know, Brexit. You know, everybody laughed at Neil Farage when he proposed Brexit. Nexit. Which one is that going to be? The next one. I'm get ahead of myself. Anyway, who is going to be the next one? Brexit, Texit, and whoever's next. So now they all laughed at him at first, but look what the headway he's made getting Britain out of the European Union. So that definitely, you know, the European Union had an ironclad on its people. But the people in all these countries, they've caused these countries to vote and vote and vote again and again and again, with people resisting it to go in. And now that the people are in, they're wanting out. The European Union is starting to crack, not just from the Brits. And the United Kingdom is starting to crack. And maybe that's a good thing. Why? Because it's a trend against the trend of globalism. Yes. So even as the globalists take their last lunge, grabbing for that brass ring of their ultimate dream with the big Great Reset, the Great Reset. What they're finding is that underneath their feet, everything's falling apart. They're lunging for it. They're wanting to put everybody locked down under control. But as they're lunging for that big brass ring, as they're making that final push for and pulling out all the stops and causing things to happen and breaking our society to push that big reset button, they're getting a rug pulled out from under them by the people, the grassroots. Most people don't want a part of that. That's ridiculous. We don't want to be controlled like a bunch of ants by one central authority that is not accountable to us. Well, look at European Union. They're run by bureaucracy, and it's not directly, the people are not, it's not directly accountable to people. Look at all the bureaucracy in our country here. You know, you used to a lawmaker had to pass laws. Now you get all these bureaucrats passing all kind of regulations that have the authority of law without any elected responsibility for having done so. Some of you think that's a good idea. Many of us do not. And that's part of the divide that's in this country. I'm going to talk about it in my next video. So, and whether it is, you know, right or wrong, up or down, left or right, I'm going to talk about the dimensions on what's on each side of this divide. And I'll be talking about different dimensions of that divide too. But it's got certain principal characteristics to it that really show that fundamentally in the United States, we're not one nation, not as people. And some people think we're all homogenized. No, we're not. We're not at all. We are very different in different parts of this country. And it can be a good thing. I haven't got any. It can be a good thing. So, you know, you just got to understand that this globalism may just fall apart. We're all worried about the Great Reset, but there is hope. We can pull against it. And there's many ways to do that. Of course, we can fight it directly through legislative and things like that. That's what I'm trying to do with my Freedom Restoration Foundation. But no, so I am forming tribal networks. Tribes are kind of like your ultimate balkanization. But what you need to know is, yeah, people are beginning to identify with their own groups, their own ethnic groups, their local groups, or whatever it is. People are identifying more and more with that. And secessionism is actually the new trend in the West. So the recent political events only serve to probably push this along even more so. In fact, the globalist drive may cause a bigger rush into this secession. You know, think about this. As Biden assumes office on the 20th of January, as many of us are beginning to assume he will, Texit will burn even harder in the minds and hearts of the Texans. And as they go for their confiscating of our implements of Amendment Number 2, red states will want to leave those that are blue. What say you? Is that true? That's going to put a lot more tension in the system. So we're seeing a lot of stuff that's going to be driving the tensions in this country hard. So, but there are counter tensions globally. There is China. China is out there gobbling, growing, pushing, and they're infiltrating. They're like an octopus. They've got their agents. Now, you realize what we just discovered? There were thousands of Chinese members of the CCP, spies in our own government, in our corporations, in our defense companies. No wonder they're able to copy everything we're coming out with. No wonder they got their own X-22s and all these things that we do. So, yeah. So they're coming out, you know, they got their own B-1 bomber variant, all these things that they're coming out with. They've been copying us. They've been stealing from us. And they've infiltrated us. They've infiltrated the way we think, the decisions we make in this country. But we're waking up to it. And we're starting to push back. So I don't think we want that. As we see how they treat their own people, the Uyghurs, as we see how they treat anybody of any faith in their country, as we see how, you know, in a communist country, everybody's supposed to be equal, but of course, as we know from Animal House, some are more equal than others. Yeah, and we're seeing that really amplified there in that nation. We see it's really just a dictatorship. It has a certain, they now switch to the economic model of capitalism to some degree, and that's how suddenly their economy has boomed. But at the heart, they're very much a totalitarian nation, very totalitarian, and their totalitarian tendencies are increasing, but they are not without they have their own internal fractures, and that country could indeed fracture. And maybe what we need to do is hope and pray and try to get word through their big all their walls, all their firewalls to keep us from getting ideas across their people. Maybe we need to find a way in to plant the ideas internally that, you know, you can have a better life. The Chinese people could do far better for themselves and could live in freedom and prosperity hand in hand with the rest of the world. Hand in hand as in shaking hands, not, you know, beating hands, you know. So, you know, a free China would be an awesome country to work with. They would accomplish the spectacular things that the whole world could be uh, jointly amazed at and proud of. And hand in hand, we could accomplish so much more for humanity than all this. You got to be mine. I got to control you, my precious. You know, attitude where they're trying to take so much and they're trying to do it step by step, and they're implementing Sun Tzu and playing it against us and playing our greeds and desires against us to advance against us. So we've got to wake up to that. We got to start pushing back against that. But, you know, some people say, well, that's why we can't balkanize. That's why we can't say, well, yeah, I tell you what, you know, I think a bunch of red states reformulated into a union of free states would probably be a bigger challenge to them than what they're facing today. You know, that would be a country that would stand on its feet and say, get back, leave me alone. You need to stay back. And, you know, in fact, we're going to evangelize freedom, and we're going to change the hearts and minds of your citizens to want freedom. Somebody, oh, Greg, you're always got this United States rules the world centric thing, and the United States is bad, it's China's time. I get a lot of comments to that in a lot of my videos and in Facebook, you know. But, you know, I'm saying, hey, I'm looking for a way that the Chinese people could do great, and we could do great too. But it may not be under the United States. And I think we can all do a lot more hand in hand together than hand to hand combat. You know, I think there's better ways to do it, better ways to operate. Somehow we might get there. Yeah, first we got to keep them from running over us. You can't be run over. But having the current union may not be the answer. May not be. I'm not calling for secession, by the way. I'm pointing out the possibilities of it and telling you about the trends of it. And I'm just saying it may not be such a bad thing. I mean, look, Texas will have Texas is a lot of the companies from Silicon Valley are moving to Texas. Elon Musk just moved to Texas. They got a big, they're developing an enormous launch capability in Texas. And look at all the launch capabilities we have in Alabama and Florida. I mean, the South is really going to rise to space. Those are galactic Gregs. So, well, that sunny idea of space. Yeah, so not just the South. We're not talking about just the South. Yeah, the southern states tend to be more conservative. I was going to show you some things. I'm almost wrapping this up, but let me show you some things to underscore what I'm talking about here real quick. Let me do a share screen. I'm forgetting about this. I'm having so much fun just talking here. Oh, yeah. Here's the Weber's definition of state. Ethnographic control for understanding the contemporary political science of state discipline. Wow. You know, that's a fancy way of saying what I just told you. But here's what's instructive here. This chart shows two different metrics, which are both highly interesting. And they go hand in hand. This bottom line is the approval rate of Congress. So you got the approval rate, but you've also got a disapproval rate. That's the top line. Look, almost 3/4 of the United States population, and sometimes 4/5 do not approve of Congress, our own elected body. Holy smoke, somewhere between 3/4 and 4/5 of the country typically do not agree with Congress and approve of the job it's doing. This is huge. This shows right here. These things, it should be at least 50-50 on here, right? But the fact, or better, we should be approving and loving our Congress. You would think Congress brings us all this stuff, right? No, people are fed up with Congress. They're fed up that the Congress doesn't pay attention. The people are serving their own interests. They're serving the interests of globalism. And you're going to find a lot of the Mitch McConnell and Mitt Romney Republicans are going to be in trouble in the Republican Party. And so because they've been so centric to globalism. And a lot of people think, well, all this Trump stuff was just because of racism. No, it's got to do a lot more with people being tired of the deep state, of being controlled, and globalism. And see, that's a narrative that's escaped people because of the stuff the news media puts out. Governor approvals don't rate all that good either. Look, the top level is only 50%. I guess the happiest people are the ones that are smoking the most weed up here in Colorado. With that, I got to put my glasses back on. Wow. Okay. We got a lot of unhappy people in Kentucky, but that's very much a depressed state. But here's what's interesting about this chart. Notice there's a bulk of states that are greener, and they tend to be red states, with a few exceptions. Yeah, it's a red state. And there's some green and blue states here, a few, but just a very few. Look at this. Wow. Of course, there's a couple of these border states are pretty unhappy, but they're in very, very depressed economies there. Maybe it's called the coal industry is dying. What's up with Oregon? Wow, they don't like their governor there. and we see some of these governors, Newsom and so forth, are just not too popular. Approval rating for Newsom is only 43%. Kate Brown has only got a 38% approval rating. Jay Inslee, only 47%. And, Greg Abbott's got 59% in Texas. Oklahoma Governor Kevin Stitt's got 59%. Well, hey, this guy in Colorado, he seems to be on top of the pyramid there. Wow, give you guys weed and they're going to be happy, huh? I don't know. That may not be the only thing going on here because I think they just legalized it in Arizona. And I know Oklahoma's pretty conservative. It's pretty darn green, guys. And Tennessee's doing pretty good. Governor Bill Lee. But look here, Virginia flopped over. And you know what? A lot of Virginians do not like the governor. They don't like this guy because he's trying to take away their rights of Amendment number 5. You know what I'm saying? So he is quite unpopular with the rural Virginians, and he may not be serving the others too well either. So look at Virginia has got a pretty low approval rate in there, 42%. Maine, 46%. Matt Belvin, you're in trouble, buddy. And Jim Justice, let's see. All right, so there you go. That shows that the legitimization is being challenged. So that's what Mr. Alan West had to say. Yeah, by the way, some of you guys may not remember Lieutenant Colonel Alan West. He has been a star. A lot of people know him, who he is. Let me see if I can grab his. So let's go look him up. I'm just going to show you a picture of this guy so you can see who we're talking about. Bam. Bam. Ding, 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 ding. Alan West. There he is. There we go. There he is right there, Mr. Alan West. He's a veteran and a star conservative. Mr. Alan West. There we go. Colonel Alan West. So, Texit. Let's look at some stuff about Texit. Yeah, it's got its logo. Here's a book. Texit. Why and how Texas will leave the Union. Look, got a lot of popular stuff. That's an interesting flag. Yeah, I love this one. If at first you don't succeed, don't say succeed. If at first you don't succeed, try, and try again. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. Texas, a tale set in the near future, Texas. So there you go. Look at there, guys. This is pretty popular. Pretty popular in certain sectors. And we can see here that there's talk about the supremacy clause. Some people argues against secession, but there was a Republican guarantee clause that seems to guarantee the right to succeed. The Constitution itself, as said right here in Wikipedia, does not address secession. At least it didn't originally after the Revolutionary War. So, in fact, you know, the Rise and Fall of the Confederacy is written by Jefferson Davis as a huge treatise on why states indeed have the right to secede from the Union. He wrote that after the defeat of the South. So he was saying basically the peril of the gun didn't prove or disprove what our rights were. It just proved who won in the battle, who won the war. Davis Mountain Standoff. Okay, so there's various other discussions in 2012. You don't even know that other states have talked about this, to include Alaska quite a bit. You know, I've lived in Alaska, and there was quite a strong secessionist movement there when I was up there. A lot of people talking about it, at least. It's from time to time. So there we go. I'm going to end this. And bang, here I am. All right. So the real challenge, though, may be China. How are we going to deal with China? We've got to be powerful and resolute in dealing with China. We can't let them just walk in and take everything, and they will if you let them. They absolutely will. That's their plan. And, you know, some say we're playing into their plan by balkanizing the United States. So that we got to be careful of. And that is, you know, the globalists would love to use China as the reason that we've got to all be together, you know, as they're letting China take over, because that's what they really want anyway. And their model, so they may think China may be the exception, whereas we all just want to be ethnic and follow our own. Well, China, by using extreme power of totalitarianism and the social control that they have in the hive they're developing, may be the model they want. In fact, that's what David Rockefeller said. China's the model that we need to follow. So there you go. One of our top elite globalists was pointing to with great favor how China runs its country and seeing that as an example of what we need worldwide. So maybe that's why they're happy to let China grow and get more and more power. Maybe they'd be happy with China taking over completely because maybe they got a deal cut, or at least think they got something on the other side. They might find a surprise on that. You know, when you deal with the devil, there may be no winning. Okay. I'm not talking about the people of China. I'm talking about the leadership of the CCP. The Red Dragon. Is it the Red Dragon of prophecy? I don't know. Hey, all right. So I have went on and on and on and on. And the thing is this. The tendencies toward balkanization and secessionism are a trend against globalism. And globalism is, in my opinion, evil because it would become a one-size-fits-all totalitarian system you'd never be able to get out of, especially as they increase the hive technology of absolute control and reduce us to being nothing more than ants. It's the only way they can maintain that control. But the more they clamp down, the more those that they clamp on will resist it. And they know that. So maybe they're coming up with ways to try to completely control us. So we got to be careful. Don't slip into the hive. All right. So that's my final word here. The way for me to know that you've watched this in, just say, Greg, I don't want to slip into the hive. I don't mean that you're for or against secession. It just means you don't want to be in the hive. Or you may say, Greg, I want to be jacked up. Stick it in. I want to be in the hive. Turn me into my numb robot. I want to be an ant. Or whatever. Make a comment about it. Tell me what you think about this video. And I hope that it was informative and entertaining too. You know, there's always something to be seen, some humor to be found in any situation. And I try to approach it with a fair, hey, I'm talking about a big topic, so I wear a big hat. What else you expect from green graves? I've got many hats, and I have a lot of fun with them. So, in fact, I wore this hat on a Galactic Graves video when I was talking about vacation in space. Aloha, away. Anyway, everybody I say with that, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. Look, I take it light sometimes, even with serious topics. You know, I will talk about real soon, maybe tomorrow or early next week, sometime next week, the divisions that divide this country, and I will be talking about what a civil war may be. In any event, you need to prepare, you need to get ready. But and this is one of the reasons you need to prepare. And we'll go back to talk more about the tensions from the outside and potential for a World War III. Let's hope these things don't happen. I really hope for the best. I hope and pray that we have a bright, shiny future that means it's so bright you got to wear those sunglasses. I'm looking at bright lights right now. So let's hope that our future is like that, just beautiful and bright. And it could be, it can be. Depends on what we do, how we react. And we don't allow people to put their jack boots on our necks. There's no reason to allow that. We don't have to. There's more of us than there are of them. But once we all get jacked up, it may be too late. So don't let them stick the jacks in the back of your head. At least not in such a way they're in control. And how are you going to prevent that? Remember Microsoft, the back doors, allows hacking, tracking, and all that stuff. Alrighty, I've said enough. Everybody, I want to say right now, thank you for watching.